these two at least enough that maybe if you're stuck, we can figure it out? Okay, so we're on page 47. This is 6A. So it wants us to find an equation in the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c when it crosses the x-axis at 1, 0 and 5, 0 and crosses the y at 0, 15. All right, so we want to have this form so we can fill in everything. Now, I know the R's and S's are confusing, but the R and the S are just your x-intercepts. So that would be x minus 1, x minus 5. And notice that in my formula, I put minuses here, so even if you have a negative, you put in a negative times a negative would make a positive. So if you keep in mind that the formula is x minus, it'll change the sign for you. Now, that's y equals a. Looks like I have 3 unknowns, but I have another x and I have a y. So y is 15. My x's are 0. So negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. So my a is 3. Did we get a is 3? We would make it that far. All right, so 3, x minus 1, x minus 5. At this point, you just need to distribute. So I've got 3x minus 3 times x minus 5, 3x squared minus 15x minus 3x plus 15. Does that make sense that my y value is 15, my y-intercept? How does that make sense?
0.
They told me that my y-intercept was 0, 15. They won't always, that should be a squared, but that makes it work out. Okay, where do we have our boo-boos? Where do we have our mistakes? You made any? Did you figure out what you did? All right, let's look at 6D. So again, the same equation, it passes through your x-axis and also passes through 116. Now this is not your y-intercept, so we're going to do y equals a, x plus 3, x minus 2. Plug in my x's there. My y is 16. My x's are 1. So that's 4, that's negative 1. So 16 equals negative 4a. So a is negative 4. Okay? So y equals negative 4 times x plus 3, x minus 2, negative 4x minus 12. So that becomes negative 4x squared plus 8x minus 12x. That's right. And see, that's messing me up. That is a positive 24. Is that correct? Or did I do something wrong here?
I don't have a negative.
You did not get the negative 4 here?
Oh, I just have to.
Okay. Let me double check. Negative 4x squared, negative times negative is positive 8x, negative 12x plus 24. So my final equation is negative 4x squared minus 4x plus 24. Is that what they had in the back of the book? Somebody check. Somebody check for me. Page 47, 6D. making sure that they didn't factor out a -4, because you could have factored out a -4. Okay. So, this is part of something very important. Quiz tomorrow, okay? Alright. I can actually just look my eyes. You can too. Sit back there. Okay. I had to teach myself that though. Okay, I digress. All right, let's say I give you this problem. Can y'all do those problems? Hope so. Tell me what you do. Yeah. Insert -2 for x, store -2 as x, substitute -2 as x. So go ahead and do that and get me the answer for these two, please. Okay. Well, now that's not asking odd or even. I'm just asking you to find. Okay? I'm just asking you to find. Okay, find f of -2, find f of 3. Now, here's another problem. I want you to write it down because I don't want to confuse you, but I want you to understand. That's an if. Not a very good if. Such that if f of x is defined as f of x equals 4x plus 7, find the value of x such that f of x equals x. Sounds like I just keep talking in circles, right? Okay, you can do this. And it's telling you exactly what to do if you start being a tree person and not a forest person. Look at the details. Okay, somebody give me some idea. Chloe.
If it's y equals x and y equals or 4x plus 7, would you just equal them to each other? So x equals 4x plus 7.
Yes.
And then
Yes. And then solve for?
0.
Solve for?
We'll solve for x.
X. Okay, guys, look up here and let me make sure you understand. I have given you what f of x is defined as. Remember, your f of x is your dependent variable. It's the one that you have to define as something. It depends on how you define it. So I've defined this f of x as this, but then I also told you that. So I can say in place of f, what in the world did I do? In place of f of x, here, I can just put in a x. Now, how would I go about solving this?
Move all the x's to one side.
All right. It doesn't matter which way I move them. So my x is -7/3. I could have moved this x over here, but I would have had a 0. and then I could have moved the 7 over there. It's going to end up with the same thing. Now, I can also, in place of an x right here, put a what? Well, I can put anything I want. I can put a 3, in which case I would say 3 is equal to this, right? I could put a 3x plus 4. Or substitute that right there. All it is strict substitution. Now, I'm not going to get this in depth on your quiz tomorrow, but I do want us to talk about something because this came up last period. And I think this is a valid discussion. So, let's say I've got okay, you don't have to write this down. Let's just look up here and just talk it out. All right, there is a property. A equals B, B equals C, so A equals C, right? This is a property, y'all probably learned that in middle school. All right, here we understand that f of x is also equal to y. So let's put that here. All right, just for the sake of visually. I do not have an f of x up here physically, do I? I do not see an f of x. I see a y. So I know if f of x is equal to y and f of x is equal to x, then y has to equal x. This property right here. Okay, so I'm not doing this to make it more complicated. I'm doing this because somebody said, I think what happened last period is somebody said that this was your answer because f of x equals y. And so they made that y here, or they made a y, I don't know, they may have had this. That may have been what they did. And I can kind of see the confusion behind that. But this is a definition. Just as in $1 is 4 quarters. This is a definition. F of x is now x. So anywhere you saw f of x up there, you put an x. If I had a y, I know we all jump. We all know that f of x is equal to y. But he was getting confused because he said, well, sometimes you give us these things. And f of x equals y. And I'm like, yes, but that's when you have an x and a y. And then you're substituted in there. Okay, so I didn't want there to be any more confusion. As long as you understand that this is just a definition, just telling you what f of x is equal to. So, any questions? The quiz tomorrow is not going to be difficult. We've done everything today, particularly in the last 2 little sessions. Nothing with sketching is going to be on there tomorrow. Okay? Nothing with sketching. So any questions?
So this domain stuff we did yesterday, that's not going to be on.
Uh-uh.
So it's just differences.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me stop and think. No. Because I'm getting my calculus, and calculus is doing what y'all are doing. No, your quiz tomorrow will strictly be on what this section right here that we just went over, and the one that had the 3 points. Write the equation of the quadratic, given the 1, 0, 2, 0, and like 6a and d, like we just did.
Just the last two things.
But now everything that I've gone over is likely to be on your test on Tuesday, so I still don't want to waste that time, but as far as the quiz